Hello, my name is Maddie, or Books with Maddie, and today we're going to be talking about the current lawsuit in Virginia trying to restrict access to certain books. Okay, so this is a different type of video than I usually do. I don't think I've ever really done something like this before, but there is a certain lawsuit going on currently in Virginia that surrounds a book banning and censorship and things like that, and I just wanted to talk about it today because it's important, first of all, to talk about, and second of all, it is kind of, I don't know about every single court case that is happening and has happened, but I think is one of the most extreme court cases because it is going beyond censorship within just schools and book banning within just schools and trying to do that in other booksellers in Virginia. And so we're going to talk about everything you need to know that's going on in this court case, what's happening next, and kind of why it even matters that this is happening. Okay, so first we're going to talk about, I have like a bunch of notes going on here, so sorry if I'm like looking to the side because I kind of need to see those notes. What's going on? We're going to take this step by step, detail by detail, so that you have all the information that's going on. I'll also be including all of my sources in the description below so that you know where I'm getting my information from. So there are two Republicans currently in Virginia who are trying to limit the sale of two books in Barnes & Noble and also kind of trying to take those books out of the school system and restrict access. And their reasoning for this is that these books are too obscene for minors. Two books that they are trying to restrict access to are Genderqueer by Maya Kobabe and A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. I can never get those titles right. Let's talk about the details of like what is actually going on. So the two Republicans who are trying to do this are named Timothy Anderson, who is a Virginia state delegate, and Tommy Altman, who is a congressional candidate. Tommy Altman approached Tim Anderson's law firm and kind of asked about the legal means that were possible to restrict access to these two books. And they found a section in Virginia law that has not been used or enacted since the 1970s, which allows any citizen to, and I quote, file in court for adjudication of the obscenity of a book. Adjudication is the process of resolving a dispute. So basically what this is saying is they can take any book that they may find obscene, bring it to court, and ask the court to decide if that book is obscene or not. And this adjudication specifically affects the commercial distribution of the books that are being filed against. So what's the aim of this lawsuit? Well, basically the two Republicans are trying to limit access to these books, limit the distribution of these books to minors without parental consent. So let's talk about next what's actually happening right now. And obviously this isn't going to be posted the day that I film it, so there might be updates and things that have happened since I filmed this. I'm going to try to post it as quickly as possible, but new things might happen, and if they do, check out my Twitter because I will be continuing to update you on what's going on over there, things like that. Possibly we'll make an update video if something big happens. So right now, as I'm filming this, what is happening is there's an ongoing lawsuit against these books, Genderqueer and A Court of Mist and Fury. In this lawsuit, the judge ultimately has to decide if these books are obscene or not. Let's talk about the legal definition of the word obscene so that we know kind of what the qualifications for what an obscene book would look like. So, Virginia State Code defines something as obscene if it appeals to prurient interest in sex. What does prurient mean? Let's look that up. Having or encouraging an excessive interest in sexual matters. So, that appeals to a prurient interest in sex, goes substantially beyond customary limits of candor in description or representation, and lacks serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value. That's a lot of legal terms. Basically what it's saying is if it talks about sex in an excessive way, doesn't contribute to an overall value, it's considered obscene. There's more in there, but that's kind of the most basic thing that I could think of to break it down. So the lawsuit is going to take some time, obviously, for the ruling to happen and everything. So in the meantime, while the lawsuit is kind of going through all of the processes, Anderson and Altman have requested a temporary restraining order for these two books. This is kind of what's causing the biggest news and kind of uproar because this is a pretty intense restraining order. So what this restraining order would basically do is, if it goes through, it would prevent Barnes & Noble and any other bookseller from distributing this book or selling it to minors without parental consent. So it would be literally illegal for booksellers to sell this book to minors, and they would face criminal prosecution if they were to sell these books to a minor. In addition, it would also prohibit the distribution of these books by any Virginia Beach City public schools while the lawsuit continues. At the moment that I'm filming this, it doesn't seem like the lawsuit has been approved or disapproved yet. It's kind of in limbo, but if it does get approved, Virginia Beach booksellers will not be able to receive any copies of these books by publishers or authors, and will not be able to sell them to minors. The board of Virginia Beach City Public Schools has already voted on the book Genderqueer and has already decided to take it out of all of the library systems in that school district. So that's what's happening now. Let's talk about what's happening next. So in the lawsuit, the judge can obviously either decide that this book is obscene or not obscene. If the judge finds that this doesn't even have probable cause that this could be obscene, the lawsuit will just be dismissed. However, the judge can determine that the book has probable cause that it is obscene. And if the judge does determine that it has probable cause that it is obscene, the lawsuit will continue. The next step in the lawsuit would be for, I quote, "the author, the publisher, and all other persons interested in the sale or commercial distribution of the book to make a response." So it would request a response from those parties, and those parties would have 21 days to respond. So far, on the day of me filming this, there has not been any response, but I don't think that the judge has ruled if it is obscene or not yet. I know there was a retired judge who did say that they had probable cause to be obscene, so that suggests that the judge will probably determine that it does have probable cause, and it will then request a response from those parties. Obviously, like, if you know what's going on the day that this is posted and there's been updates and stuff, feel free to leave more information in the comments below about, what's been going on in the time between me posting and filming this. So those parties will have 21 days to respond, and after 21 days, there will be a hearing. In this hearing, the judge will make the final decision on if this book qualifies as obscene. If they decide this book isn't actually obscene, the filing will be dropped, everything will just go back to normal. But if they do decide that it is obscene, there will be a lot more happening. According to the Virginia law that Altman and Anderson are using, if the judge decides that these books are obscene, it will become illegal to distribute, sell, or lend these books. Illegal. That means if anybody sells, distributes, or lends these books, they will be facing criminal prosecution. However, Altman and Anderson are looking for a modified version of this case. That doesn't mean that they will get the modified version of this case if this goes through, but the modified version that they're asking for is just that it restricts access to minors. They're not looking to make these books overall illegal to everybody to sell, distribute, or lend, but only illegal for minors to do those things without parental consent. So if this ruling does come to pass and they do accept the modified version of the lawsuit, it will become illegal for minors to buy these books at Barnes & Noble or try to lend them out from libraries. So what are the consequences that will happen if there is an obscene ruling? If the book is determined to be obscene and booksellers continue to decide to sell these books to minors and not restrict access, the booksellers and the minors could be at risk for criminal prosecution if they are found to be selling or buying these books. Now, there's been a lot of public response about this. There's been a lot of statements made, and I just want to read some of those statements so you know kind of where people stand. So Barnes & Noble issued a statement which says, this is again me quoting, "As booksellers, we carry thousands of books whose subject matter some may find offensive. We ask that our customers respect our responsibility to offer this breadth of reading materials and respect also that while they choose not to purchase many of these themselves, they may be of interest to others." Very reasonable statement, basically just saying, if you don't want to read that book, don't read it, but don't restrict access to everybody else who wants to read it. There's also been a statement by Patrick Sweeney, who is the political director for Every Library. This is a non-profit organization that advocates for libraries. Patrick Sweeney said that he was unsurprised by what's happening and expects that conservative legislators will move on trying to limit what the general public can read. So he's saying that basically he's not surprised that what they're trying to limit access to minors, because there have been several other court cases in Virginia that have banned books in school districts. He's not surprised that this is happening, but he thinks that there will be further steps taken that will limit access to these books to the general public. So he thinks there will be a further step that does limit these books to everyone and not just minors. I also wanted to read a couple quotes from Anderson, who is the lawyer, because he said some pretty wild things. And so I just wanted to kind of talk about that for a second. So one of his quotes is, "There is no First Amendment right to distribute sexually explicit materials to minors." This is kind of in response to everybody saying, hey, what about the First Amendment, which is like freedom of speech and like all of these freedoms that you are restricting. He said there's no First Amendment right to distribute sexually explicit materials to minors. I mean, there's so many problems with that. Don't really feel like I need to get into it, especially because I'm trying to kind of just give you the information, not necessarily my opinions on it. Although my opinions are this is completely wrong. There's a lot to unpack there that we don't have time to do. Anderson also said these books are hypersexual and have extreme vulgar and sexual content in them. Tommy Altman is a father. He has kids in the public school system, and that's what this is all about. If this is about the public school system and he doesn't want his kids to check out those books in the public school system, then tell his kids not to check out the books in the public school system. If he doesn't want them to, then tell them not to, then say don't read them to your kid. What? Like, it's not like anybody's forcing your kids to read A Court of Mist and Fury. And also, extreme vulgar and sexual content? I mean, obviously there's sexual content in it, but like, extreme and like, out of all the books, A Court of Mist and Fury, that's just like, I mean, it's not, it is, but it's not, you know, if you've read it, you know what I mean, like, there is, but there's also, like, so many other ones that, like, you could take down first. It's just a very weird book to choose. Genderqueer, obviously, is probably based on homophobia, the reason that they're banning it. There's so much homophobia within the environment of banning books is mostly just based on racism, homophobia, and sexism. So there's really no questions as to why they're trying to ban that. Okay, let's talk about some surrounding context which is going on kind of around this lawsuit. Republican lawmakers nationwide, so not just in Virginia, in all of America, have also begun proposing legislation that would limit titles students can search for, can check out, can even look at within public school libraries. So not even just what they can see, what they can check out, but what they can even search for is limiting. Just wild to me. This is another kind of wild thing that's going on. Tim Anderson, who is the lawyer that we've been talking about, has been requesting the names of head librarians at various school districts where he believes that inappropriate books can be found. He has not yet, to my knowledge, revealed what he's doing with these names, but people are comparing it to, like, a witch hunt of sort. Like, what is he gonna do with these names? That's terrifying. That's all I know about that situation at the moment, but I'm sure they'll be aware about that. And then lastly, just some context about, like, Virginia law and the lawmakers in Virginia as a whole. This has happened already in Virginia. Other books have successfully been banned in Virginia school districts, including Lawn Boy by Jonathan Evison and Saga by Brian K. Vaughan. This is not something that is unheard of and could potentially never happen. Like, the chances of these books being banned is pretty high because it's already happened so many times. Those are 2 out of so many books that have been banned in Virginia school districts. So, lastly, we're going to talk about why does this matter? We know why it matters. We know about censorship. We know about why it matters to ban books, but let's talk about the actual consequences of what will happen if things like this continue to happen. This opens up the door for way more censorship and banning. We've already learned how common and frequently books get banned in schools, but starting to ban books in booksellers, in Barnes & Noble, in these other avenues of getting books opens the door for so many more opportunities for censorship and books to be banned, not only in public school districts, but to the general public, to minors who might need those books in order to learn more about themselves and help themselves grow as fully fledged people who are reaching adulthood. I found this bookseller called the Violet Fox Bookshop, which is a bookstore in Virginia. They have a lot of resources. I will link their store website in my description below, as well as all of the resources that they provide that can help people kind of aid in the prevention of these issues in the best way that we can. And so I'm just going to read some excerpts from their website about, because I think that they said it better than I could ever say it, about what's going on and why all of this matters. So they are paraphrasing and giving direct quotes from the American Booksellers for Free Expression, who commented on the situation recently. So the judge's opinion is troubling because it could threaten the First Amendment right of a bookseller to sell a book and a citizen to purchase and read a book, all based on the subjective point of view of a few citizens, one of whom in this particular instance is running for office. So basically what they're saying here is one point of view is ruling this as obscene. And even if that's more than one person who has that point of view, it's still one point of view that is ruling this as obscene. Whereas another point of view might not see this as obscene in the same way that they do. So like, it's all very subjective, and to apply this ruling to an entire group of people is obviously violating so many First Amendment rights. So there's so many problems there. And then this is a direct quote: "Freedom of speech and free expression are the pillars of our society. When a select group of people try to silence voices, particularly historically marginalized voices, all of society suffers. It is even more concerning when it is a politician or the state demanding censorship. It is a bookseller's constitutional right to carry and sell books as they see fit, without interference from the government, a reader's right to decide for themselves what they read, and a parent or guardian's right to discuss with their children what they're reading." Couldn't have said it better myself. Like, perfect synopsis of why this is so incredibly problematic. It violates so many First Amendment rights. And these are some other things that the bookshop is saying. "Censorship of any kind, including book banning, is wrong. Nobody in no form of government should have the right to decide what you are allowed to read or think." Because this goes beyond what people are just reading. Books, we know this. If you're on my channel, you know the books can like really affect the way that you think about things. And so by limiting the options that people have to read, they're also limiting the way that people who are growing and learning are even able to think. "Banning books is a slippery slope. When we allow for one or two books to be banned, we open the door for all or any books to be banned. The United States is a beautifully diverse country with so many different people, each with their own life experience. Representation in books matters. The right to write and read books true to oneself and the availability of books reflect that diversity as incredibly important." Those are, of course, direct quotes. I don't take credit for any of those because I'm reading from the website, and again, I'll have the website linked in the description below. But they are saying it in such a great way. Limiting the diversity limits who we are as a society, and limiting continually subjugated voices such as women, such as non-binary authors, and just queer authors in general does not help us move forward in those diverse ways, obviously. Like, our society is struggling to be progressive, struggling to move forward, and banning books is one of the top ways that that progressive movement is being stifled. So obviously this is like a really intense situation and something that we need to continue to keep an eye on. This is all the information I have at the moment. Things are still happening, things are still moving around. I'll do my best to continue to keep updating on Twitter and such, but I know there are several resources that you can find updates on. I mean, literally just Googling it will bring you so much information. If you have more information, obviously, like I said, leave it in the comments below. Leave your thoughts on this in the comments below, but please keep it respectful, keep it kind, because this is a really important and really intense issue. So just keep that in mind as you comment. But thank you so much for watching. I know this is a different kind of video, but let me know if you'd like me to continue covering topics that are controversial to the book community, and obviously not like booktube drama, like bigger issues like this that are happening in the United States that are continuing this trend of censorship. So let me know if you'd like to see more of that. But other than that, that is the end of this video. I do hope that you enjoyed and learned something new. If you did, feel free to like and subscribe. It really helps out my channel, and I hope you have a great day, I hope you have a great week, and I hope you have a great life, and I'll see you very, very soon. Bye-bye!